Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The Expendable Show. I'm your host, The Expendable. If you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. You know how we do it. We're going to get into our statistics. We're going to talk about Trump meeting with Jerome Powell this week. We're going to talk about a few other things. There's some tariff activity that's going to have some effects on the markets this week. And then we're going to talk about my fantastic investigation in Kentucky that is making me more and more popular every day. I'm not sure I can walk through Kentucky without being shot at right now. Pretty sure Eric avoids Kentucky altogether. But that's a whole other thing. So, I have literally accomplished 0 things this weekend. And now it's going to be Monday tomorrow, back to work. Of course, for me, Mondays mean that corporate America doesn't do anything. So Monday is almost like an extended day off for me because nobody in corporate America does anything on Mondays. So I can't communicate with all the people I need to communicate with because even politicians, business people, they don't want to do nothing on Monday. Like, I wish I had it that sweet. Like, I have to look at Monday and go, well, I guess I'm not going to make any money today because nobody in America that makes $1 million a year wants to do any work on Monday. So yeah, that Mondays are always like my worst day. So I just TikTok all day. TikTok it up. So let's go. I know last week I said I'm not going to do any more Doge stuff, but I lied. And we have an update on the site finally. So we're up to $199 billion, $1,236.02 per taxpayer. So they must have did something. Not sure what they did. I didn't look into it that much because I was so shocked that they updated it. On the debt clock, we're at $571 billion, which is $5,092 per taxpayer. Democrats are still at 19% approval rating. Fantastic job, guys. Gas prices. Joe Biden's 2024 average was $3.30. We have dropped a little bit, so we're at $3.14 this week. Mortgage rates. So we're going to talk about this a little bit in depth today. So Biden's average for 2024 was 6.7. That's high, but Trump actually has had a higher average rate. But right now he's below it. So he's at 6.625. So it really didn't change. Trump's approval rate hovering pretty much at the same rate. He's at 45.4. So, I mean, if you look at it on a positive, on a silver lining, 45.4, that means there's 4 Donald Trumps. He was a 45th president. Get it? I know. Me too. So the Dow closed at 44,901.92. So we're still hovering around that record. We'll get it. I think this week's going to be the week. So simply because of the tariff stuff that's getting ready to happen. But I just did like a stutter. Like, but. Let's go into Trump had a meeting with Jerome Powell this week. For those of you who don't know, I know the Fed's kind of like one of those organizations where nobody really knows who runs it. But if you do pay attention to that kind of thing, Jerome Powell is who runs the Fed. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Fed is who is responsible for interest rates. They do it by printing money or destroying money. So that's how they affect things. And they do have a very immediate effect on things. So when we were in our Biden era recession, Jerome Powell kept raising the interest rates to get people to stop buying things, he was trying to get the inflation to stop. It kind of did. So I'm not going to say the guy's an idiot, but he is an idiot at the same time. So let's go into the big meeting that Trump and Jerome Powell had. I know I'm pointing over here because I have a screen over here that has all my outline on it. So President Trump insists there was no tension between him and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. I call bluff on that one. I watched the whole thing. That looked like a lot of tension. If if I do say so myself. That was during their meeting. It happened on Thursday. It was at the Federal Reserve headquarters. Despite a tense exchange on camera and questions posed in Powell's presence, they basically was talking about Jerome Powell right in front of Jerome Powell to Donald Trump. It was kind of funny. And they even asked him whether Trump was planning on firing him. I was like, man, you guys really don't care about this guy standing beside Donald Trump. Trump was trying to play it cool. So Trump does, in the last few weeks leading up to this meeting, as we know, Donald Trump didn't have anything really good to say. To Jerome Powell, even sent him a handwritten note that said, hey, you're costing the Americans like tens of billions of dollars right now. Like, get it together. So Trump's been on basically a public crusade against Powell. He's been angry with him for failing to lower the interest rates, which I've been saying this for weeks and weeks and weeks now, rightfully so. Jerome Powell should have lowered the interest rates probably 2 months ago. This should have already happened. We should be at probably two interest rates cuts by now. I would say if we were down in the fives, I'd be happy. I mean, I'm not going to be all the way happy, but that's where we should be right now. So he was angry because they didn't lower the interest rates, and the president blasted Powell for his inaction repeatedly, citing his quick movement to raise rates under former President Joe Biden, which is true. When we had those issues, like I about called him Colin Powell, Jerome Powell was very quick to work with the Biden administration to try to stop the bleeding. So that was a big issue there, and I mean, I at the time when he was doing it, I'm like, okay, this guy's doing some work. Well, now that Trump's in office and he's improving everything, now he's not doing anything. So you can definitely tell where his bias lays. So Trump also blasted Powell in conjunction with his complaints about the interest rates over the multi-billion-dollar renovations at the Federal Reserve's D.C. headquarters, which Trump described as luxurious while he inspected on Thursday. So he was there. Trump had a hard hat on and everything. They're walking around the construction site. And Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina was with him. So that's a big deal. And it's interesting that Jerome Powell wants to do what he does, which is basically nothing. However, also, he wants to continue to try to build this massive masterpiece, beautiful building at the expense of the American taxpayers, but won't do anything to relieve the American taxpayer. So this is where I think Jerome Powell is wrong. And I've never been a huge Jerome Powell fan. I can't stand him, but he's wrong on this. And Trump did a good job and called him out. So I'm happy that he did that. Normally, I don't like to see people's dirty laundry get aired out, on TV. I'd rather them do that behind closed doors. However, this feud's been going on publicly for a while, so I think Trump was kind of in the right to do it the way that he did it. Trump did go on to say, he said, I thought we had a good meeting. I really think there's no tension. There was no tension. I think he had more tension with my great senator to the right, which was Tim Scott. That's kind of, so it sounds like Tim Scott was laying into him. And, Trump was trying to, kind of play moderator a little bit, is from what I get from that. Then he went on to say, we had an honest, candid conversation about some of the overruns at this building. That's what Tim Scott said that. And then Tim Scott went on to say, we had it in my banking committee, and Powell said we were wrong. And it turns out we were right. Thank God President Trump and his team took enough time to dig into some of the details. So we're going to talk about what they found. Trump's comments that there was no tension between him and Powell followed an awkward moment between the pair that occurred on camera as they were touring the new renovations. Trump declared the luxurious renovations had been critical of Will, ultimately costing around $3.1 billion, an increase from the $2.7 billion. So the project was scheduled for $2.7 billion. and it's now up to 3.1 billion. So they've overspent. Now, Jerome Powell calls Trump's bluff on that. He's like, well, that's not right. And Trump goes, oh, yeah? Here. And he brought the receipts with him. I thought that was brilliant. And I think he knew that Jerome Powell was going to question him on that. And so he had the docs right there. And Jerome Powell's like, reading the documents like he was like an idiot. And Trump made him look really, really stupid on camera. And that's typical Trump. Like, if you're going to question him, he's already done. Hey, he's got the answer already. There's no doubt. Trump he said, we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit or a lot. You know, Trump, he likes to word things. It was a little bit, or maybe it was a lot. He was talking to the press about that. Oops, I scrolled too far. So Trump went on again to say, he said, so the $2.7 billion is now 3.1 billion. He just kept bringing it up. And Jerome Powell goes, I'm not aware of that, Mr. President. I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed. And Trump said, it just came out. And then he pulled a piece of paper out and showed him. And Tim Scott agreed with him. And Jerome Powell goes, this came from the Federal Reserve. And Trump confirmed it. And then for a few weird seconds, like, Powell read the letter before telling Trump that the larger number includes renovations that have already been completed, but it was still part of the same budget. That's the part Jerome Powell's not telling you, that it's still part of that original quoted budget. And then Jerome Powell said, are you including the Martin renovation? You just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building. It's not new. And Trump shot back and said, it's part of the overall work. And then, in addition to the clash over the cost of the renovations, reporters questioned Trump in front of Jerome Powell about whether he, as a private citizen, would fire a project manager who let the cost of the renovation overrun. Trump jumped in and he goes, I'd fire him. And then Trump kind of just backed away and let Jerome Powell go. So then he went on. Trump went on to say, he said, I'm here just really with the chairman. He's showing us around, showing us the work. And so I don't want to get that. I don't want to be personal. I just like to see it get finished. So he's basically saying, hurry up and get this done, so we don't have to deal with it no more. So I think the agenda that President Trump wanted to get across was clearly conveyed, and Jerome Powell looked like a real moron on TV, which I had expected nothing less than him to look like a complete moron. Tariff talks this week. So there was just an announcement. I think the European Union actually did just agree on something, but I can't confirm it because I've been multitasking all day. So what's going to happen? So this week is packed with high stakes tariff negotiations as the August 1st deadline. We're just a few days away. It's coming up. So everybody's trying to hurry up and get these tariff deals done. So I was going to talk about the U.S. European Union tariffs, which I'm going to anyway. So that meeting date was today. So as I'm pretty sure they've made a deal. I don't know what the details of that deal are, but we're going to go over what they had hoped. So the location of the deal was in Turnberry, Scotland, at Trump's golf course. I bet they hated that. So you had Ursula von der Leyen from Germany, who's the European Union Commission president. She is a very Germanesque looking woman for sure. She looks like Bridget Nielsen. That's why I kind of translate her with Bridget Nielsen. So their plan was to finalize a deal to avoid a 30% tariff on European Union goods, which would affect like the car, steel, aluminum, and pharmaceutical companies. So the Europeans offering to buy more U.S. liquefied natural gas and invest in U.S. industries. That sounds like that may positively affect American workers. I don't know. Also, so July 22nd, which was last week, the Philippines made a deal with the United States. The Philippines drop all tariffs on U.S. goods. They dropped them to 19%, so we have reciprocal 19% tariffs, which is they're going to focus on strengthening their defense and economic ties. So it sounds like we got a good deal in place with the Philippines. Everybody's happy. Global tariff letters. Trump sent 25 countries tariff notices, and the ranges were from 10% to 50%, depending upon trade relations. Brazil's looking at 50%. Canada's at 35%. Mexico and the European Union are at 30%. As we know, we can take the European Union off of that list because they made a deal. I just don't know what the details are yet. Upcoming talks this week. So we have China. So Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's the greatest Treasury Secretary we've ever had in the history of the United States, he meets Chinese officials tomorrow, Monday, the 28th, in Stockholm, Sweden. So somebody's going to leave there with a mental disorder, guaranteed. Somebody will be captured. So they're going to extend they're going to try to extend the current truce. I think that's what China's trying to do. They're trying to get another extension, but we'll see what happens. China's just they're dinking around. They need to make a deal, like a solid deal. The deadline for Canada was July 21st, but talks are probably going to continue informally. Today, they announced that Pakistan is close to making a deal with us, so I expect that to get done before the deadline. So let's talk about strategically what these tariffs mean. Now, we know that when Trump announced the big mass tariff, everybody was like, oh, the economy is going to crash. America's going to fall. And it did not happen. We took a hit and the economy started to quickly recover. And then everybody was like, oh, okay, so maybe this wasn't such a bad idea, except like diehard, like communist Democrats. They're the only ones that are still like Trump's destroying the economy, but they're morons. You can't fix stupid. But I should be nice. I should be more nice. But it's the truth. I battle Democrats every day. Nothing ever changes. They stick to their same failed policies over and over and over again. They don't ever learn. But anyway, so what this does on the global, like geopolitically, what these tariffs do. So Trump was able to dictate the terms of the tariffs. Now, how does that help the United States? It helps us financially, of course. However, what it also helps us do is it helps us have the negotiation advantage. So let's say Pakistan and India start bombing each other again. Trump can say, if you guys want to act like kids, guess what? Everybody's paying 30%, 35% tariffs now. Watch how fast those countries stop blowing each other up. And I think that's going to be a very good international strategy, which I know if the Democrats get back in office on the presidential side, they're going to blow this whole thing up and go back to the same old stupid bad tariff deals that we had before. Although Biden never got rid of any of Trump's tariff deals with China. So maybe they'll ride the coattail of that winner. Maybe. We'll see. So there is that at play. So the tariffs are actually doing us several different justices. We get to make some money back. We get treated fairly, and plus we can use those in the international realm to really take advantage of the military strategery and things like that are out there. I just made up my own word. Strategery is not really a word, I don't think. I might have to Google that later. Strategery. I do that sometimes. Making up your own words is way more fun than talking words, because then people go, what did he just say? That was so intelligent. Nope, I just made it up. But like I tell everybody in Kentucky, I don't play by the rules. I do whatever I want, no matter what. It doesn't matter. You guys can do whatever you want. I'm still not going to play by the rules. I can go collect information on who's having affairs with who and then tell everybody about it. So eat that. Divorce rates are probably going to go up in Southern Kentucky, just so everybody knows, amongst the politicians. Next, let's go into what's happening with the Russia collusion hoax investigation. So that we pretty much know who's all implicated in that. We pretty much know that they have a solid case. Now, just to give people a kind of a refresher on that. So we're looking at former CIA director. I'm sorry, we don't want to give him any credit. John Brennan, former FBI director James Comey, who I would probably put in the top 10 most tyrannous people that has ever lived in the United States. So they're accused of overruling internal objections and pushing for the inclusion of the Steele dossier. It's one of those French words. Despite concerns about its credibility. They knew it wasn't credible, but they still pushed the initiative because they were basically forced to by Psycho Hillary. She's a serial killer. I don't care what anybody says. Former DNI James Clapper. What a name, James Clapp. My name's James Clapper. You can call me Mr. Clapp. But he's lawyered up, so he knows what time it is. He's like, man, I gotta get me a lawyer. Where's Johnny Cochran? Johnny Cochran's dead. You can't hire him. So that was some of the new evidence that came up. So James Clapper thought, well, I should probably get a lawyer. Rightfully so, he should. Senator Adam Shifty Schiff, he's a key figure in this whole thing. So he dismissed recent revelations as dishonest. He said this is dishonest. While most people accuse him of being the chief propagandist behind the collusion narrative. So he's like the Joseph Goebbels of this whole spiel, the whole Russia collusion hoax. So he was like the propaganda tool. That's right. I did compare him to somebody from that party from the 1940s in Germany. He acts like one. He acts like one. So the Justice Department has formed a strike force to assess the newly declassified evidence and determine whether any criminal referrals are warranted. Now, we do know on the whole auto pen thing that's been happening this week where they've been subpoenaing all these people, magically, everyone wants to abide by their constitutional rights to not incriminate themselves. A lot of the Fifth got pleaded. They probably all had to go read what the Fifth is, since the Democrats have been just trying to destroy the Constitution for so long that they probably like, wait a minute, isn't there something in that stupid paper that might help us not have to incriminate ourselves? Oh, that's right, the Fifth Amendment. So everybody pretty much took the Fifth today. I think Klein didn't. I think Klein did answer some questions, so that might have done him some good. He might have worked himself out a deal. Next, so Donald Trump has escalated his rhetoric against former President Barack Obama, accusing him of orchestrating a conspiracy to undermine the 2016 election that results in falsely tied Trump to Russia. These claims stem from a recent report by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who's done a fantastic job in the last couple weeks. So we're there. The information's out there. It's with Pam Bondi. We know that. We know who all the players are. We know what all their roles are. Now we just need people to get arrested. Now, it's not going to be that easy. During a July 22nd Oval Office press conference, Trump declared they caught President Obama absolutely cold. He's guilty. This is treason. He alleged that Obama was the ringleader of the group, including Biden, Comey, Clapper, and Brennan. They manipulated the intelligence to create the Russia collusion narrative, which everybody in America knew this was happening, except for like the blowhard Democrats who created it. Trump also claimed Obama tried to lead a coup with Hillary Clinton to prevent him from taking office. So I don't care about that. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, didn't happen. But what I do care about are the things that did happen. Now, we have to remember that Barack Obama is not going to be prosecuted. He has presidential immunity, just like Donald Trump does, just like Joe Biden does, just like Bill Clinton does, and everybody else. However, the person who didn't win an election, Hillary Clinton, does not have presidential immunity. if we all remember, Democrats, Hillary did not win the presidency. And if we want to remember some more, neither did Kamala Harris. Neither one won a presidency. Creepy Joe Biden won a presidency. Isn't that weird? That they couldn't get Hillary a White House seat, or they couldn't get Kamala Harris, but they could get Joe Biden. That's how sexist the Democrats are. They put zero effort into Hillary. They tried to cheat. That was it. But they threw everything with Joe Biden. Everything comes with Joe Biden. They didn't do anything for Kamala Harris. Kamala. I'm never going to call her by her real enunciation. So back into Tulsi Gabbard's report. Look, if you commit crime as a government official, you should be held accountable. That's what all this is about. I'm not trying to pick on people or make fun of people, but the accountability is important, because we've been in this system, in this government, to where accountability just hasn't been there. Like, you see them throw, like Bob Menendez and like some of these other guys, the Republican guy from New York. You see some accountability, but it's like the small time players. When you have all these big people that have been running around for the last 20, 30 years, destroying the fabric of our government. And it happens on both sides. I'm not going to just point the finger at the Democrats. The Republicans do it too. Dan Crenshaw, he's a snake in the grass. You've got everybody in Kentucky, not being biased because I'm investigating them, but when you look at the lineup, you've got Mitch McConnell, you've got Rand Paul. I know some people like Rand Paul. I am not one of those people. I am not a Rand Paul fan. And then you got Thomas Massey, who says no on everything. You could ask him, hey, would you like $20 billion? And he'd be like, who wants to know? No. He's like the no man. If you ever watched The Yes Man, he's the no man. You could go look at his voting record. It's ridiculously no's. Like, he might say yes to like money for Ukraine. That's it. No, but I'll fund people to kill each other. So that there's some bad Republicans. There's a lot of bad Democrats, in my opinion. But there's a lot of bad Republicans too. And that's stuff I've been spending a lot of time down in Kentucky. We're trying to expose some of those things. Because there's some problems. There's some problems down there, and I'm seeing them pretty darn clearly. I know who all the players are. So Gabbard released declassified documents suggesting Obama officials manufactured and politicized intelligence to support the Russia interference narrative. She refers to this as a year-long coup. Year-long coup. So some of the reactions to this, and we know that President Trump is, he's doing his thing, and not everything's going to be glorious and perfect. But some of the legal experts say Trump's use of terms like treason and coup is not supported by evidence or legal precedent. But my thing is, look, if you're going to say stuff like that, like if Trump's going to say it, I believe he knows something, because he has he has the top security clearance in the whole planet of Earth. Where these legal experts, they don't have shit for security clearance. So for them to say stuff like that, I don't really like pay too much attention to it, because they don't have the clearance or the in the know to even know what all the evidence is. So this is just them trying to decredit or take away credit from Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump. Obama's spokesman dismissed the accusations as ridiculous and a weak attempt at a distraction. So that's the Democrats' ploy right now, is they're trying to say, oh, he's just using this to not expose himself on being on the Epstein list. Everybody's on the Epstein list. Well, Donald Trump for one, there is no list. For two, we already know all the players that are in all the documentation. We already know. So they're trying to say if there's this big conspiracy to cover up stuff. I mean, there's more information out there, I'm sure. but we'll see. They're trying to get it pushed out, and we'll see what happens with it. But I don't think this is a. I just think it was a tip of the iceberg thing. Play with the Epstein files, throw out the treason case, which all these people could be getting indicted pretty soon, except Obama and Biden. Then we look into what's after that. What's Trump got coming down the pipeline? Because now we're seeing the DOJ start to do stuff. We're seeing Homeland Security do stuff. We're seeing the FBI do stuff. Whereas there before, it was like, man, all we care about is these like dudes in gangs from other countries. I don't care. I mean, I care about it, but I don't want that to be my headlines every day. I want those cases to not matter that much. Like, hey, good job, Tom Homan. You're doing an awesome job. But I don't need that to be my headline for the Trump administration every day. I need to see something else other than deporting bad guys. I think a lot of people in America agree with the same thing. So there's multiple bipartisan investigations, including the 2020 Senate Intelligence Committee report affirmed that Russia interfered in the 2016 election but did not alter vote counts. Like I said, Obama's going to have immunity. And I just think, presidential immunity is a good idea. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't want that I want Obama to get away with it. But I do think that it's important that we allow the presidential immunity to carry that weight. I think that since the president has the top security clearance in the world, he knows more than we do. So if he has to do something in respect to the United States, make a tough decision that nobody else on the planet can make, I want him to have immunity from that. There's certain things out there that I would like. If President Biden was murdering people, I would not want the immunity to work for him. But at the same time, I don't think that we should make his immunity specific. It shouldn't be specific to this or this or this or this. Make it general and say it's across the board. Nobody touches our president, no matter what. And maybe it enables like some lunacy. I guess we'll deal with that. I mean, you could always just turn them over to the international court, I suppose, even though they don't really have any jurisdiction over anything. People think they do, but they don't. The international court is virtually worthless in the United States. We do not honor their laws. So let's go into my my Kentucky update. So what we have here is another cop killed somebody. Imagine that. This is a huge problem, and I'm starting to draw attention from other law enforcement agencies outside of Kentucky. I had a guy from a deputy sheriff from Texas get a hold of me, and he's like, what is going on there? I've never seen such a rural area have bodies all the time. I said, I know. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like those county law enforcement agencies have never evolved past like the Wild West times where they don't agree with somebody, they just kill them. And this one may not be as nefarious, but it does have some overtones to it that the community's mad about. So this happened Thursday, July 24th in Knox County, Kentucky, which is basically like Corbin. It's right off of I-75. So county sheriff was in pursuit of a UTV, which is a side-by-side. It was during a traffic stop. And apparently the sheriff's car got too close to the UTV, and what the victim or the witness in the passenger seat of the side-by-side said that they were nudged. There is something in the water there, Colin. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe how much the cops commit felonies every day down there. It's amazing. I would never live there. I would be arrested every week. But so they clipped it. That's what the guy, his official words were. The cop car clipped our side-by-side, and it flipped it. And the driver, which was 21-year-old father of two, Todd St. John, it killed him. So the passenger was his best friend. And so the passenger has come out and said, look, that we we was just out doing our thing. Like there was no drinking. Like, yeah, we went and had a couple beers like 2 hours before that. But, you know, we were just heading in to gas up. And the passengers, Jerry Stewart, I've spent, you know, several conversations with him, talked to him about his, you know, what he saw. They're from Gray, Kentucky. It's a tragedy, and I'm not sure I can really blame the cop, but at the same time, we can blame the cop. The cop's name is Deputy Michael Ashurst. He's 39. He wasn't injured, of course, because he was in a car. But the funny thing about this guy is he's currently being sued for murder, amongst other things, for shooting a suspect and killing him, Jesse Mills, who Jesse Mills was carrying his child, walking because his car ran out of gas, is what the story that I'm told. Officially, unofficially, I don't know. But they basically beat him over the head 3 times with a mag light, tased the crap out of him, stomped him, kicked him, punched him while he was on the ground, made him get up, and then they shot him in the stomach and then shot him in the chest and killed him. This is, and all they did was let him go. He left Knox County Sheriff's Office, and then he bounced around other agencies in that area, and then now he's back with Knox Sheriff's Office. So what, they just enable this. Like, this guy should never be working in law enforcement. This isn't the only story. This guy has a mile-long sheet full of questionable ethical decisions. He should have been charged for murder for what they did to the Mills kid. Now, and there's many witnesses that say, especially one that testified during the case, the Hobbs boy, Ricky Hobbs. Ricky Hobbs saw the whole thing. He in depth mapped it out in testimony, and it's going to end up, they're going to win the civil suit most likely. And I don't know what they're going to do with this Ashurst guy, but he needs held accountable. They didn't even indict him. Like, they looked at it and they said, oh, there's nothing to see here. But also, we've got this stuff going on in the same area, not the same county, but right next door and back in Laurel County, where their school resource officer, the chief of the school resource officers, he gets a DUI a couple days ago. New cop, a young cop, gets him, doesn't know that don't know what the rules are. So it sounds like, from what I understand, the documents that I've looked at, there's 2 different reports as to what happened. One report says he was driving. The next one says he was walking. So they're trying to doctor up the reports, I believe. I'm waiting on more information, but I've seen 2 different reports by the same officer that say 2 different things. So I'm going to be following that very closely. Come to find out that chief of the resource officers, because they're their own entity there. The school resource is their own department, apparently. I didn't know it worked like that. In Ohio, it's the sheriff's office they hire out of the sheriff's office. But what this story is so crazy. And they can make a movie about this. It's crazy. But apparently this Ashurst guy was also working for the Laurel County Sheriff's Office. And he got caught sleeping with the married daughter of the sheriff. So the sheriff said, you got to get out of my county. So this guy's full of crazy stories and like unethical behavior. I don't understand. The state of Kentucky should pull his law enforcement license and say, you're done. Go sit down. But anyway, the school resource officer is best friends with Mayor Randall Weddle, who really does not like me. He hates me, actually. Pretty sure if I go to Kentucky, he's going to take me out. Anyway, but they're now changing the story because Randall Weddle doesn't want his buddy to get a DUI and lose his job as the chief of the school resource. So, Colin, he never ceases to amaze me. So Colin said the toothbrush was invented in Kentucky. Anywhere else, and they would have called it a teeth brush. Collins jokes. This is what happens when Marines get in my my comment section. Hoorah. But anyway, so the Jesse Mills situation, I've talked to his family members about it too. This was a tragedy in its own right. So he's being sued for excessive force, intentional homicide, and a violation of constitutional rights. I have yet to see any evidence that shows that that Mills fought back. The witness, Ricky Hobbs, said that he wasn't even fighting back. He was just getting beat to death, and then they shot him and killed him. So this is going to be a hard one for Knox County. They're going to lose. They're probably going to lose this unless some miraculous miracle happens. Mills was unarmed. He wasn't resisting, according to reports, and he was beaten and tased repeatedly and then shot twice. Why do you have to shoot him? Like, what? You had to shoot the guy? It was murder, negligent homicide. So that's what I'm dealing with in Kentucky. Probably by tomorrow, there will be a news story of something else corrupt that happens in town. It seems like every time I turn around, I tell everybody, like, every time I turn around in that area, there's a plot twist. And that's about what it's like. And I think a lot of these Kentucky cops, they've never been outside of their state, or they've never like really talked to cops outside of their state. But I mean, we have our own corruption back home in Ohio, but at the same time, and we have it in Georgia where I live now, but at the same time, if you're going to cost us lawsuits or bad press, you're out. They don't care. You're fired. Get out of here. And they don't play. But these guys down in Kentucky, they just keep recycling these same bad cops all over the place. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what's happening. I would not want my department, my county, or my city to continually get sued because we've got all these wild, wild west backwoods, cops that think, well, if they piss me off, I'll just get rid of them and throw them in the Cumberland River, or throw them in the Lake Cumberland, or throw them in the trash compactor, or wherever else they throw all these guys all over the place. I mean, hell, there's a place in Somerset I can take you to right now that I know where there's a body. Exactly. I know exactly where a body's at in Somerset, Kentucky right now. And, eventually I'm going to end up on that spot. And the law enforcement does not want anybody at that spot, which is why I haven't just walked up there and done it, because I might not make it out of there alive. But I know exactly where it's at. I know who exactly it is. And it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time for all that dirt comes out. There's a lot. I'm probably playing with fire, but it don't matter. It don't really matter anymore. Somebody's got to do something. None of the locals are doing anything. Feds ain't doing nothing. Department of Justice ain't doing nothing. Attorney generals of all the states, they don't care. Somebody's got to do something. But that's how I feel. And Van Wert, let me tell you something. Don't think you're off the hook. Because my mom left me a box full of stuff. Think about that. But that's it for my show today. I'm out. Peace.